Toronto's second half is now underway, and the Maple Leafs, in a rebuilding season, are still dealing with the frustrations of inconsistency. Recent losses cannot be tolerated, but they are parts of a connection. Effort has rarely been a problem with this team, but effort alone must be accompanied by results to strengthen the foundation. It's not always that you win, but in this situation, it's how you perform. How Toronto's overall performance connects to the big picture.
We know him. Belak in the house. Luke Shen leading Brad May into his home room. And Steve Sullivan back at the Air Canada Centre. The Nashville Predators here to take on your Toronto Maple Leafs right here on Leafs TV. Hi, everybody. I'm Jody Vance. This is Molson Canadian Leaf Nation pregame show live from the Air Canada Centre. Glad you could join us. By us, I'm referring, of course, to my panel of gentlemen here. Joe Bowen, who will be calling the game tonight on Leafs TV. Should be a good one. Thanks for being here, Joe. Hockey analyst Mark Morrow, of course, and our senior reporter, Paul Henrik. And we've got a lot to cover off this evening because we've got some former Toronto Maple Leafs in the house, and one who you all know very well, Wade Belak, has been a great friend to us here on Leafs TV, as well as Steve Sullivan back here and Brad May making his first appearance on home ice as a Toronto Maple Leaf. And we all get it started with the headlines brought to you by Ford, powered by you, Paul.
Headlines number one, build upon the high notes from a tough loss in Philadelphia Saturday night. Headline number two, we've talked about it. Sully back in fine form, and welcome back to Toronto, Steve Sullivan. And headline number three, have a third line and fourth line forecheck in an effort to produce some offense here tonight against the Nashville Predators. And the end result Saturday night, Joe Bowen, can be construed as a negative, but there were several positives that the Leafs took away from the city of brotherly love that they hope might transfer them to victory here tonight. What do you think they were?
Well, I think, Paul, one of the big things was the way they started the game. And I guess really the addition of Brad May has added a little backbone to this hockey club for sure, because there was no backing down from the Philadelphia Flyers in the early going. They did have some great scoring chances. And again, the situation that they've gotten themselves into, however, is they've given up 29 times the opening goal in the hockey game. And when you do that, you're playing from behind, and you cannot win in this league by consistently playing from behind, and they have done that. However, I was pleased with the way they played, especially their physical play.
And Joe, you should have been pleased, because the one thing that you pointed out to in the past, the Bowen factor, and the Leafs are good when they have the Bowen factor in their favor, and that is, as Joe's pointed out.
That doesn't mean me playing, though.
Thank God for that. It doesn't mean that, but it means when they have shots, block shots, and missed shots. So attempts at the net is essentially what he likes to say. When they are in the majority of that, it means they're on their game. In the game in Philadelphia, they had 80 Bowen factor attempts to Philadelphia's 50. Unfortunately, many of those were block shots, stop shots by Biron, and they came up on the short end of it.
That's some fine ciphering done there, I'll tell you, and he didn't even take his shoes off. That's impressive.
Took me a while this afternoon to add it up.
Jeff O'Dean would have been proud of you.
Well, let's try these numbers. The Leafs have given up the first goal of a game 29 times in their first 42 games this season. The Leafs can ill afford yet another slow start here against Nashville. Nick Antropov has a theory why.
All the teams having chemistry now in their lines. You know, it's a little tougher to come back, but I mean, we're still fighting the whole 60 minutes, you know, and sometimes we're able to come back, sometimes we're not. So it's just a matter of, you know, of a good start. You have to start good in our own building for sure, and see what's happening afterwards.
For me?
Well, yes, if you want.
I don't know why they start slowly. I mean, that to me is the most mind-puzzling thing that's gone on this season, as the reason, really, they've only scored one or two first-period goals in their last 7 games, and there's really no reason for it. I'm sure in the dressing room, that's all they talk about. Let's get off to a good start. Let's have some energy going. Let's make sure we get the jump on them. And they do get their chances, but they do not score first on the majority of the time, and when you get behind, that's tough.
Let's go to headline number 2, and it's about Steve Sullivan. It has been about passion for this man. It's been about patience and perseverance. Joe, 683 days between games, and an awfully long time, but his first game back Saturday night against Chicago was great. He has reason to feel optimistic, and I'm thrilled to see him back in the National Hockey League.
Oh, I think everybody is, Paul. I mean, he is a young man that plays with a lot of heart and passion. and he's had some bad breaks as far as his back is concerned. But the Timmins native has always been one of our favorites. His dad's here, of course, Ken, a long-time beer salesman with our good friends at Molson's. Get that one in there, Morrow. You know how that works. But it's great to have him here, and he's played exceptionally well. And he's played well against the Leafs, too.
Thomas Caberlet and Curtis Joseph are the lone remaining holdovers of when Steve Sullivan was a member of the Maple Leafs, way back when. The two played with the Timmins native for the better part of 2 seasons. Here's Andy with Thomas Caberlet.
Thomas, when you look across to your opponent, you see a player in Steve Sullivan who spent some time here. You had a chance to play with him. To see him and know the difficulty that he's going through, I mean, what can you tell us what kind of player he was when he was here?
Obviously, he's a skilled player, fast little guy, and with the new rules, he could be dangerous, Obviously, he's been out for a while with the back problems, and obviously it's nice to see him back. He was battling through his injuries, and he's healthy enough to play again.
Seen another guy return in the name of Wade Belak, and a guy that you said, these were guys who went out on the ice, and their job was to protect players like you. So I guess somebody you always have respect for?
Obviously, he's a great guy, and he does his job on the ice. He's a big guy, and I haven't seen him lose a fight. So obviously, he's going to do a good job for him, too.
Against Philadelphia, that was that tough, gritty game. Nashville Predators also known for a strong defensive style. What is the plan of attack first when the puck drops, considering this team has had some slow starts?
Well, obviously, that's the first thing. Play a smart first period, don't get down early on like we've been doing, and just play simple hockey game, and just try to get the pucks on the net, and hoping for some rebounds, and like you said, it's a fast team, so we have to keep it simple, especially in our zone.
Joe, let's look back to the 1998-99 season. The Leafs get to the conference final against the Buffalo Sabres, and Steve Sullivan had himself a 20-goal season. Eventually went on to play for Chicago and Nashville. Had a bit of a tantrum with head coach Pat Quinn, very frustrated back then, and you just didn't do that with Pat Quinn, and the Leafs' loss was certainly Pat's as well, and I think if we had to do it all over again, maybe Steve might still be a Maple Leaf, but he has gone on to have a very good career elsewhere.
Yes, he has, and in Chicago he was excellent as well, and the situation with Steve has always been, especially as Thomas pointed out, with the new league and the new rules, a little guy with great speed has a great deal of opportunity to do some things. There's his dad and his mom sitting in the stands. That family has put more miles on Michelin's than any other family I think I know.
Ken and Louise, and there will be 16 of them in around that area on that side of the family watching Steve here play tonight.
Timmins is empty.
It is, and so is Sudbury as well. Headline number 3, heavy forecheck from the third and fourth lines here tonight. Both groups had great times on Saturday night in Philadelphia as the Philadelphia Flyers defensemen were forced to look over their shoulders and in the process absorb some end glass as well. This is going to happen tonight in terms of physicality to get some offense going.
Well, they had Nares, DeVoe, and May on one line, and we were joking. We said that if they scored, they'd have to make sure it was the large piece of the puck that went in the net. But they are going to be heard. I mean, they may not stick handle the best, but they're going to be heard in the forecheck, and that's great. Ryan Holwig is in that mix as well, and that's what that line, and that's what certainly Brian Burke's idea of a team is, that the third and fourth lines are physical players that set the tone and make it a lot more comfortable for your skilled players to play a little more comfortable. And I think he feels that has happened with the addition of Brad May, even in Montreal and certainly in Philadelphia.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think you're absolutely late for getting upstairs. You got to get going. Joe Bowen, obviously, with the call here on LeafsTV. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, a chat with the top cat, Barry Chalk. Stops by after this. Stick around.